Governor, great to have you with us.
Well, thanks for having me. And just for the record, we're going to complete the 99th later today when we go to Jasper County. So we're in Sioux City now up in northwest Iowa, but it's something that's a tradition in Iowa. All the people that have actually won the caucus in recent times have done it. And I think it's important that you go, you earn the vote, and you show up everywhere, answer questions, and shake the hands. So we're excited to be able to announce the completion today.
Well, that'll be cool. And, you know, going back a couple days, you had a rock'em sock'em debate with the California governor, Gavin Newsom. Now, we know you're running for president, but he's obviously positioning himself to be the heir apparent if Biden ends up in assisted living at some point. It was definitely an unorthodox thing to do, but sometimes you have to roll the dice. And Florida versus California is a very good argument for you to make. And I thought, and even Trump said, you did real well.
Yeah, look, I think that it was the type. I mean, I think it's important to do for a couple reasons. One, when you're running for president, you need to get exposure. And some candidates get more than others. So if I have 90 minutes on national TV to be able to articulate conservative principles, how I've delivered for people in Florida and how I could deliver for people in America, I'm going to take that opportunity. But I think the other thing is he is waiting in the wings. We know a lot of Democrats want to replace Biden, and he has been somebody who's kind of been the golden boy of the progressive left, and he would be somebody that they would potentially want to put in. I'm not sure that they would want to do it after that debate, because I think we successfully exposed his failures and showed how he took a state that has probably more natural advantages in any state and has ruined it where people are fleeing in record numbers. But I also think it was important to do because if you look at what California does, they're the petri dish of American leftism. They're 5 years ahead of where Biden and people in D.C. and the National Democratic Party are. But you can bet your bottom dollar that the Democratic Party is going to go in the direction nationally that California has done in that state. And so that means accelerating this country's decline. It means kneecapping our energy production. It means higher prices for people. It means an open border. It means higher crime. It will destroy this country if we allow the Californication of America. Florida shows the opposite. Florida shows conservative principles work, that freedom should reign supreme, and that you could have unprecedented success like we've enjoyed since I've been governor.
Yeah, every time I go to Florida, the question is, hey, what part of New York are you from? You know, you announced...
Well, you know, the thing about it is, and I know you know a lot of people that have probably moved over the years.
I do.
When I first became governor, Florida was considered a very competitive state. And so a lot of the transplanted New Yorkers would tell me, give me a big hug, say, I'm so glad my vote now counts. But it turned out in 2022, if you just had all the transplanted New Yorkers, the Republicans, if they could have voted in New York, we may have been able to win the governorship up there. My margin was 20 points. I had a million votes I could have given Zeldin to be able to make a difference. So that's part of the problem with the blue states, though, is that they hemorrhage a lot of Republicans. So it's harder to get the reaction back to hold them accountable because you guys have dealt with a lot of the same failures in New York that they're doing in California. But what it shows is leftist ideology imposed by leftist politicians. It will cause cities and states to collapse.
No doubt, and they have. You announced 192 long days ago, right? You're not where you thought or hoped you'd be at this point, but the upside is you're in second place in most of the polls. You have room to grow because you're the second choice of voters in most polling. So how's the next 44 days from now until the caucus going to be different than what you've been doing so far?
Well, I would say we don't really chase the national polls because it's a state-by-state process.
Yeah.
So we've put a lot of work in building the organization in the early states. So if you look at what we've done in Iowa, doing the 99 county, that's not going to really impact the polling. But what happens is as people make decisions going into the caucus, you build the organization, you end up producing more caucus votes. So we've been able to build a great organization. I don't think anyone's been able to do what we've been able to do. We have the endorsement of the sitting governor, Kim Reynolds, who's wildly popular here and has done a great job. We just got endorsed by the top evangelical political leader, Bob Vander Plaats, head of the Family Leader. So we're going to be mobilizing that community. So if you look at where I am, compared to where previous caucus winners have 2016, 12, and 2008. We're doing much better than they are. That's the way this process unfolds. So I think you're going to continue to see that step-by-step progress. And then as we get into January, which is when people really make their final decisions, I think we have what it takes to be able to sweep into that victory. So I would say what we've done in Iowa, if you would have told me 6 months ago that I would have been able to have all these counties organized, have over 30-some thousand people already committed to caucus for us, have the governor's endorsement, Bob Vander Plaats, I would have said that that was a big success.
No, it's true. At this point, less air attack, more ground game, and that's what you have to do. But you also, so you have a challenge in front and behind, right? In front is Trump. Behind, you see Nikki Haley. You're a Navy guy, so it's always easier when you have one target, but you kind of have two right now. So do you use your resources to fire away at Haley or Trump? How do you peel off supporters from other candidates? But also, you got these undecideds, right? And you got to get them too.
Well, I think it's kind of a different thing. I mean, I think with Trump, he's got a hardcore support that obviously will be there. I think in the polling, there's a lot above that are people that liked his policies, but they are willing to vote for somebody else, but they're only going to vote for somebody who's going to be a fighter, who represents their conservative principles, and that actually is going to be able to win on all these issues. And I'm the only guy running that can say that. I think what Haley has done is she's gotten a lot of support from corporate media, and she's gotten a lot of support now from Wall Street interests, but that typically is not how it resonates in Iowa. And what I would just say is she clearly is not a conservative. I think if you look at her record as South Carolina governor, people can't even identify any major achievements that she had. She actually killed a bill to protect girls and women in bathrooms and locker rooms, which we know has been a big issue. I signed legislation protecting girls and women athletes. She actually attacked me for standing up against Disney when we had the issue with the sexualization of the elementary school curriculum. I'm a father of a first grader, a kindergartner, and a preschooler. I want the kids learning the basics. You should not be telling a kindergartner that they can change their gender, yet she sided with Disney on that. Now she's bragging that she's been meeting with people like the head of BlackRock, which is the ESG mecca, as well as the head of JP Morgan, who was a big Hillary Clinton donor. And there's actually an ad being run here in Iowa that I saw that shows Nikki talking about, in her own words, how her inspiration to get into politics was not Ronald Reagan, not Margaret Thatcher, but Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Yeah. You know, when I was the Republican nominee for governor in New York in 2014, away from home a lot, the travel gets tiresome. And, you know, there's plenty of nights, I'm sure, that you'd rather just be Ron or Dad and be home instead of FaceTiming your wife and those three adorable kids from some hotel room like in the middle of nowhere. How do you deal with that?
Well, part of how we deal with it is we bring the kids with us as much as we can. So they're in Iowa with us right now. We got in, we met them, we were in South Carolina yesterday. We flew into Iowa late last night in Sioux City. And the interesting thing is, these are kids born and raised in Florida. This morning, they saw their first ever snow. So they were out there being able to throw some snowballs. They've been able to come with us to a lot of states across this country and have really, I think, enjoyed it. You know, we don't want to put them in a situation where they're not having fun, but they have fun with it. And they really do. And our view as parents is we want to spend as much time with them as possible. We do not want to be in a situation where the kids are at home for a week and we don't see them at all. So I think we've been able to really strike a good balance. The challenge is just if they're not in school, then we homeschool them if we're on a bus or in a hotel room or things like that. But that's something that you just got to improvise and do. So they're at a good enough age where you can do that. So we've had a lot of fun with it. They've had a lot of great experiences. And I just compare, like when I was 5 years old or 7 years old, I had very little travel outside of my community in Florida. Yet our kids have been to Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. They've even been to California and Texas and stuff like that. So it's been an interesting experience. And they're young enough to where all the negative that gets thrown at you in this process, they don't even really understand that. And that's good. I think it'd probably be harder if they were teenagers.
So I'm going to give you 10 seconds to answer this. I'm a fanatical Miami Dolphins fan going back to Greasy and Shula. You need to get off that sinking Tampa Bay Buccaneers ship and hop on the Finns bus, and I'll give you a seat if you want.
Well, as governor, I want all the Florida teams to do good. But personally, I was with the Bucks when they had those orange creamsicle uniforms.
The Doug Williams
when they'd
day.
play at the old sombrero.
Yeah.
When if they played the Bears or the Giants or anyone, there'd be more fans for the other team than for the Bucks. So I remember those days. And once you get on the bandwagon, then
I know.
you're never going to get off because it can't get any worse than that.
That's true.